Hi, welcome to our next keynote about optimizing your film logistics and your converting operation. Optimization means that we always want to increase productivity, we want to reduce errors, we want to reduce waste, and we want to reduce cost. So this is what I'm focusing on, and most of the ideas I want to share with you today are coming from the year-long experience with visiting customers and logistics systems from all over the world. So I want to share some of the good ones and some of the bad ones to give you some new ideas in what way you possibly could improve also your logistic system. The first, and by the way, these top 5 I want to talk about today are not in a specific order. It's just 5 general ideas. So it's not, potentially it's not getting better towards the end or anything like that. So, and I want to keep the self-advertising to an absolute minimum among these top 5 topics. So the first point I want to talk about is process organization in general. So things that you should look at is picking optimization and route optimization in terms of where you store your material that you need more often than other kinds of materials. So first of all, divide your product range into different series. Some might be popular than others, and also some specific products out of one group of products, out of one series, might be popular than the other ones of this group. So like black, white, blue, and red colors for sure are more popular, and the rolls are used more often than other colors like brown or things like that. So try to think of a layout of your warehouse that gives you the least walking distance between machine and the material. Some customers who run several machines from us, we know that they put all those machines together in one central area and then arrange the warehouse area around that. But also others are quite successful with putting one machine in one specific area and trying to arrange the range of products around these machines that are converted on one single machine, and by that reduce the walking distance to shelves and back quite successfully. Also, think of that it's not only about those rows that you need during the day to wind off 2 or 5 or 10 meters, but also the rolls from your spare stock, so the full rolls that you need to replace one that is gone after the last converting job for that particular roll. So try not to move those rolls that you need throughout the day to replace some of the rolls in your picking stock at a distance too far away or at a place too hard to access too. So this can also lead to a general optimization of the walking distance in your warehouse. And another thing that is very different how our customers handle this is how they pack rolls after or before. So pack used rolls when storing them on a shelf in order to pick them, to use them on the converting machine. Some of them put them in plastic sleeves and back in the boxes and close the boxes and put the box on the shelf, which needs a lot of effort to unpack this roll every time and then use it on the machine. Of course, it stays dust-free and things like that, but it's a significant amount of time you need to invest every time to pack this and unpack it again. Whereas other customers just simply put rolls, for example, on steel frames with spigots where they can just push a single roll with the core over a spigot, and then the roll is very easy to remove and to load into that shelf system again. Sometimes with plastic sleeves around, sometimes with not. That probably depends on if you have a general dust problem in your area, like if you often work with the doors open because of heat or something like that. That's probably things you have to consider. Then another thing that's most of our customers are aware of the need of optimizing the distance to walk to get a roll to the machine and back to the shelf. But what we see very often is that the cores, the paper cores, are stored in weird locations, so that the operator of a machine needs to walk quite a distance to get himself a suitable paper core that he needs to convert a 5-meter roll or 10-meter roll. And another thing to consider about the cores is that sometimes we see different widths of cores being stored in the warehouses, and then of course it gets even more difficult to have them all in the area around the machine and always pick the right ones. Especially our machines gives you the opportunity to only have one core of something like a full or a maximum width, and then when you, for example, rewind a material that's only 61 centimeters or 24 inch, then you just cut the core here and use the rest for the next converting job, and by that have the whole purchasing volume of cores for one width only, maybe save on the product price and also on the storage, because you don't have to store all those different kinds of widths. Then just in general, it's I think that how to have everything in order at your workplace and how to organize the disposal of materials like paper or plastic, and everything connected to that is very important. We see warehouse systems where, especially throughout the day when the workload gets higher, everything like order in general is getting out of hand somehow, and then people say, well, they will clean this up in the afternoon or in the next morning, and I think that decreases productivity, because once you start walking around boxes on the floor, things like that, then you're just not possible to do high productivity and high quality work in that environment. And another underestimated thing is how to return rolls to the shelf. So usually there's an operator at the machine and then a runner, or it's the operator himself who goes to a shelf and picks a roll for a specific job to convert. And then sometimes those rolls are just left close by on the floor, because people try to save time, not to bring them back to where they belong, but to just go and pick the next roll. And then those rolls pile up on the floor, and it make it more difficult to navigate around all those rolls that you don't want to throw over. And in case you need one of those rolls and you just cannot find them anymore, so someone will see, I need the purple glossy material, then he walks to the shelf location, and the location is empty, and then he asks his colleague, and the colleague says, yeah, I think I probably had that roll before today, it must be somewhere around here, and it's very difficult to find this material and then to actually have access to it without throwing over all of those rolls standing around on the floor. So it might seem like a good solution to say, well, I do that in the evening or the next morning. Now I need all my time to just go and get new material. But I think it just does not work like that. If you have your process in order, and if you invest the time to bring back a roll to its location, if you have distance optimized shelf locations and everything, then it's much better to keep your working area in order and tidy, and not make the material pile up everywhere. So those are some general ideas for process organization. And the second thing I want to talk about today is the automation or automation in general. Of course, any automated process has the advantage of being less, creating less errors and having a higher productivity in general. And with less errors, I mean less potential for human error and especially for human error that's generated under high workload, under stressful situations. And this is where the self-advertising and also our own products come into play. Our converting equipment, so our rewinders and slitters and converting centers all provide a significant increase of overall productivity in about 40 to 50% in terms of the amount of time you need to do a converting job compared to a simple machine or a simple device. With that, additionally to that, it also provides you with our software, with Conrad Plus software and the accuracy of our rewinding system, much less errors in mixing material, shipping too short rolls, shipping too long rolls, all these waste and error problems, especially human error, is eliminated just by helping the operator to get everything right with our software and the level of automation that our equipment provides. And so when I'm talking about the converting machines, we're only thinking about the actual value adding process of the converting. So to bring a master roll down to the dimensions that a customer ordered and wants you to ship immediately. But we're not talking about those not directly value adding processes, like, for example, this bringing rolls from the warehouse and then bringing them back. And this is where it could be interesting to think of an automatic roll warehouse, which we have on this pop-up here. I only want to talk shortly about this today, in that in this particular keynote there will be a different keynote only about automatic roll warehouses at the end of this NEPATA Summit, available to download too, of course. But to automate the distribution of roles corresponding to the pending job lists from Conrad Plus 2 onto, so think of a gantry robot system where all those roles are placed in an upright position on spigots, and the robot will then, according to your pending job list, deliver rolls from the warehouse area to a trolley, and then the operator of a machine can just pick a trolley with all those rolls he needs for at least one order, maybe even more than one orders combined on one trolley. He can perform all these converting jobs, put the remaining rolls back on this trolley and just push the trolley back into the gantry robot system. And by then he will always get the roll based on your first in, first out or last in, first out system. He will always get the roll that's where the length of the roll is fitting the target length in the best possible way. So he's not using just the first roll he finds on the shelf, but the robot is deciding exactly which roll is the best one to use. And of course, this robot system and the software behind it is always fully aware of your total inventory and how long all those rolls are and how old they are, and where you already need to put in a new roll to keep a certain level of stock for a single material, and all things like that that can help you beyond the simple automation of bringing roles to the machine and bringing them back into the warehouse. But again, this is part of a different keynote that will be held in a couple of days too. So the third point I want to talk about today is business intelligence and digitization in logistics systems or in vinyl film logistic systems. There is, according to our experience, there is a lot of room to explore more possibilities how digitization can help you to improve and optimize your film logistics. So, for example, the level of integration that we can provide with Convert+2 software and ERP systems, for most customers, it's not on a very high level at the moment. So there's a lot more you could do in automate the import of data, so of converting and job data towards the machine, but also exporting data back from what has been done at the machine into the ERP systems in order to make stock movements or have a real-time overview of what is on stock, of the inventory, of is that a roll? We have 80 meters of white, but is it one roll of 50 and one roll of 30 meters, or is it 25 rolls with just a couple of meters on it? So this kind of information is available at the moment. The material is here and it's available in our software, but it needs to be sent back and integrated into your ERP data flow, so you can benefit from that for your logistics system. And the second thing is that, of course, all that data available can help you with all sorts of analysis, like fast mover analysis. Look at your material, what colors and what series are sold the most, where do we need the rows close to the machine because we need them more often than others. Also user analysis, what user or what machine does perform how many converting jobs per day, and why is that? Is the distance to walk every day longer than for others because maybe the warehouse is not as good organized in that area as it is in others, or is the user itself not performing on a level that like his colleagues? All that sort of data is there, and so we can provide a part of it with our software, and also of course your ERP can provide a lot of this data, but it's a lack of analysis, I think, today, that we don't learn more of this obvious data. We just have to use it in the right way. And another idea I want to share is that we often see or we often bring our machines and our software into existing systems and try to integrate to a certain level and set up a workflow that works for our customers the way he thinks is right. And many times, especially the workers on the shop floor are complaining that especially the digital part of the process consumes a lot of time because there is this software, they have to enter this data and then make a scan here and make a printout there, and especially when more systems come together, sometimes it's not that easy to really integrate all of that into a new, well thought of process, but most of the times it's just adding things and then the whole thing completely is not very efficient anymore, but there's no one really looking at that because the IT managers don't know about it. The logistic managers sometimes also don't know about it in detail, especially they don't know enough about the IT side of it, and then the operators, they just do what they need to do, what they're being told to. So I think it could be very beneficial for many companies if they listen more to the operators on the shop floor on how much time they need for all those single steps of a data flow and workflow process, and learn from them where is potential to optimize things. I'm sure that also we could help to a lot of our customers to benefit more from the possibilities we provide if just we are bringing the right people at a table and then discuss how that process should be modularized in an ideal way and not just take it as it is today because it always has been that way. So that's about digitization and some ideas about data mining and business intelligence. The fourth way how to optimize your logistics system is more to look towards the sales and marketing side. I think that a lot of problems and a lot of high effort workflow in the logistics are created by the marketing and the sales people because they simply decide that the market requires now that we ship everything in single meter steps or that we send out every order after 4 p.m. on the same day and just things like that. And no one really thinks about how could we find a way to make optimized logistic process and an optimized sales process together to gain really a strong package and a profitable package of products we sell, and the company earns more money than just when the one department decides what needs to be done and the other department somehow has to live with that. Especially in terms of remaining rows, so very short rows, 1 or 2 meter rows remaining after full rows have been converted down to until those very short rows remain. We see that as a huge problem everywhere, that these rows get disposed at some point because they just get more and more and they get older and older, and at some point you just can't dispose them, and there's hardly ever we see a way of making attractive sales prices for these kinds of products to get rid of them and at least get some money for them. If it's not possible to get the full square meter price, at least you get something before you just dispose it. Or to think about how can we change the way we offer vinyl so we don't have these remaining rolls in the end. For example, think about when you stop selling by the meter, but for example sell in 2 meter steps, then you reduce the remaining rolls problem by 50%, because then in the end you don't get a 1 meter piece left, but only the last thing can only be a 2 meter piece that it's more likely to be sold, because people seldomly tend to purchase a 1 meter piece of vinyl because it's just the area is just too small. And or you go up to 5 meters and then have from 50, every 5 meter step also prevents you from having a rest on stock that you cannot sell anymore. Of course, this requires changes in how you market and sell your products, but it's worth thinking about it together between logistics, marketing, and sales. Also think about which roll widths are really important to offer to customers, or if all the widths have to be sold in individual lengths, or if you can limit widths that are not so popular anymore to those 5 meter steps, to at least not have remaining rolls of these widths on stock, because you know the total turnover of this kind of product is already weaker than for other products. And what's also worth thinking about is we very often see that, for example, customer orders 5 meters of 61 centimeters or 24 inch, Then the full width material is loaded and 5 meters are rewound to a new roll, and then afterwards the roll is slit into half. The one half goes out to the customer and the other half goes in stock, and it sits in stock until someone else orders 5 meters or less than 5 meters. Maybe he orders 3 meters, and then 3 meters are wound off those 5, and then you have 2 left and put those back on stock. If you change that process and use at least the fast-moving colors, maybe your top 10 or top 20 colors, you don't unwind 5 meters, but you slit full rolls in the beginning into half, and then you stock half of the width, and then only unwind from these full rolls in half width. Then you only have the problem of that you keep a rest of 1 or 2 meters once per 50-meter roll, and not every time you have one very specific length with a very specific rest of which you don't know when you can sell it again. So this, of course, increases the total amount of material you need to have on stock, because you need full width material at a certain amount and half width material with a certain amount, but you can dramatically decrease the number of remaining rolls of very short lengths on stock by this. So maybe worth giving it a thought. And so the last and fifth point I want to talk about today is the level of know-how and training of the staff in logistics, because we quite often have the impression that there is a certain level of fluctuation between workers in that area of logistics. So from time to time, new people start working at the machines, and that get trained by people who've been there before. And so in general, we see a decreasing level of knowledge about workflows, process, how to operate the machine, how to maintain or only clean the machine, how to operate the software, how the potential and like exception handling in the software, also in the machine workflow. So this knowledge is, there's typically a lack of knowledge of that within staff, and so there's a lot of waste of time and also waste of material, because people just don't know how to do it properly, and then either they wait and ask the warehouse manager how to do it, or they just try to do it themselves and then they fail and then they waste some material, or there are many different scenarios. But so we highly believe that it's worth investing more time in training your workers, your machine operators properly and regularly, just to get more out of this good knowledge and the experience of those workers while they are working at machines and with software. So these have been the 5 points I wanted to share with you today. Just right after this keynote, you now have the chance to take part in our live Q&A session. Just drop us an email or fill out the question form on our live page, or use the comment function on YouTube to send us your questions, and we will be happy to answer them right away. And beyond that, of course, we're also available by email or telephone for individual consulting and for your questions at any time. Thank you for your interest and watching, and see you soon.